I never imagined waking up in King Arthur's world, facing knights and my own destiny. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. One moment, I was sprawled on my bed, heart racing over finals, and the next, I was staring at the shimmering outline of Camelot's castle. The walls gleamed like jewels under a sun I had never seen before. I could feel the wind carrying whispers of ancient tales, wrapping around me like a cloak, and when I touched the cobblestones, they throbbed with histories untold. My breaths came in quick gasps, a mix of awe and terror pulsing within me. The air was thick, tinged with the smell of damp earth and wood smoke. A distant clanging echoed, like a heartbeat drumming through the air. This was not my home. This was a world of legends, cloaked figures shrouded in mystery, and knights whose courage shook the very ground beneath my feet. I felt so small, so lost. And yet, something deep within stirred. Was it destiny calling? I had always cherished stories of chivalry, of brave knights and powerful wizards. But why me? I was just a girl with messy hair and dreams too big for a small-town life. My heart ached for the friends and family I left behind, the laughter of late-night study sessions and the warmth of my mother's hug. I could see their faces, the concern in my best friend's eyes when I talked about feeling out of place that I stumbled through the market square, taking in the vibrant colors of the stalls. The merchants shouted, their voices rising and falling like waves. I was mesmerized by the satins and silks that danced in the breeze. But just as quickly, an unsettling stillness crept in. The crowd hushed, eyes darting to something behind me. My chest tightened. What was happening? Then I saw him. A knight, tall and imposing, his armor glinting ominously in the sun. He approached, and my heart raced. I could practically hear it thumping in my ears, drowning out the murmurs around me. His presence was potent, an electric charge in the air. But there was something else, something darker behind those piercing eyes. Fear gnawed at the back of my mind. Had I stumbled into something bigger than I could handle? He stopped a mere breath away. The tension was palpable. Did he know I was an intruder? Did he realize I didn't belong here? His hand hovered near his sword, and I could see the battle between duty and curiosity warring within him. Suddenly, a low cry pierced through the air, cutting the tension like a knife. It sent shivers racing down my spine. Someone was in danger. But who? The knight's gaze snapped to the source of the sound, and in that moment, I felt the world spin. What did that mean for me? And what would it take to survive here? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The cry pierced the air again, sharper this time, and I felt ice trickle down my spine. The knight's demeanor shifted, the glint of his armor no longer felt threatening but resolute as he turned, a force of nature moving swiftly toward the sound. I was frozen for a moment, a spectator in a world that spun around me. The pulse of my heart quickened with confusion. What should I do? And why was I even thinking about helping? I didn't belong here. But the sound of desperation pulled at something inside me, a flicker of courage that ignited within my chest. Before I could fully process my decision, my feet propelled me forward, instinctively following the knight through the crowded market, weaving past narrow aisles of merchants and their bewildered customers who stared at me, curiosity mingling with fear. We burst into a narrow alley, shadowed and damp. There, hanging precariously from a wooden scaffold, was a small boy, no more than 5 or 6, his face streaked with dirt and panic. He was trying to climb down, his tiny hands slipping as the wooden planks creaked ominously beneath him. My heart stopped. It felt as though the world had compressed into this one moment. The knight, with a determination that made my stomach flutter, leaped forward, casting a glance back at me, urging me to help. I hesitated, my heart racing as I noticed the way his armor shone like a beacon amidst the grime. "Stay back," he commanded, his voice a deep rumble filled with authority. "I will save him." But something deep within me screamed that I had to do more. The boy's eyes met mine in a silent plea, and the terror there propelled me closer. I stepped beside the knight, my voice trembling yet firm. "No. We both need to help." He paused, as if considering my words, and then refocused on the task. "Very well," he muttered, surprisingly, his tone softer now. Together, we moved quickly. The knight lifted the boy from the scaffold while I steadied him with words of comfort. "You're safe now." "We've got you," I said, though I felt like a Frauda girl lost in a world where the rules made no sense. With a final heave, the knight lowered him safely to the ground. I could nearly taste the relief that hung thick in the air. The boy collapsed into my arms, sobbing, pressing his small face into my shoulder. I felt warmth radiate from the boy's tiny body, which ignited a surge of hope within me. But the world outside soon shattered that bubble of safety. As we pulled away from the boy, I caught sight of a group of cloaked figures watching us from the shadows. Their eyes gleamed with an unsettling intensity, and a chill crawled down my spine. They were unlike the crowds at the market, their presence foreboding, as if they had drawn power from the chaos. "Stay close," the knight instructed, urgency threading through his words. He turned to the boy, whose tears still glistened like fresh dew. "Are you hurt?" As the boy shook his head, I felt an unexpected rush of protectiveness surge through me. These feelings were foreign in this unfamiliar kingdom, but the knot of fear at the back of my throat tightened with each passing second. What had sparked the danger that hung above us? Just when I thought we might escape, a gust of wind swept through the alley, stirring the cloaks of the figures now stepping forward. With an unsettling grace, one figure stepped into view, revealing a face etched with shadows and secrets, a woman whose presence knocked the breath from my lungs. "Why do you meddle in our affairs, good knight?" she asked, her voice smooth yet laced with something sinister. "And who is this girl that bravely stands beside you?" I glanced at the knight, and in that instant, our eyes locked. I could see the conflict etched across his features, the unspoken questions battling against the pressing need to protect me. Before he could respond, an unexpected flash of light burst from beyond the alley, and instinctively, I shielded my eyes. It crackled like magic or a warning, and in that moment of chaos, my heart raced, caught between fear, confusion, and an exhilarating sense of urgency that I was lost in this world, and yet, something tugged at his was just the beginning. The knight could not protect me forever, and the hidden dangers in Camelot were only just beginning to unveil themselves. As the figures loomed closer, my heart pounded with both dread and a strange exhilaration. I realized that my destiny was now intertwined with the very fate of Camelot. The cloaked woman surveyed us with an intensity that made my blood run cold. "Do you know what you've done?" she hissed, her gaze darting between the knight and me, as if sifting through our secrets. The shadows around her seemed to dance, casting eerie patterns on the grimy stones of the alley. I felt anchored to the ground, too frightened to respond but too aware of the rising tension. The knight stepped forward, his hand resting menacingly on the hilt of his sword. "We saved the boy. That is all that matters." His voice held a strength that suggested he would stand his ground, even if the fabric of our own reality frayed around us. "And do you believe your good deeds will go unnoticed?" the woman retorted, her lips curling into a smile that held no warmth. "In Camelot, there are consequences for disrupting the order." "You are not from here," she said, her attention shifting to me, scrutinizing my every breath. "But you will bear the weight of your actions nonetheless." My throat tightened, and I opened my mouth to argue, to state that I didn't choose this world, but nothing emerged. Instead, I could only watch as the tension escalated. The knight's armor gleamed under the dim light, but I felt a growing sense of helplessness. The weight of the woman's words pressed down on my shoulders, heavier than any physical burden. The boy, still clinging to my hand, sensed the shift in the atmosphere. He looked up at me, his innocent eyes wide and brimming with fear, and in that moment, I felt a surge of responsibility wash over me. I wasn't merely a bystander, I had a role to play, even if I didn't yet understand what it entailed. Before I could fully digest the situation, a low growl erupted from behind the woman, a shadowy figure slithering from the depths of darkness, its eyes glowing like molten gold. I gasped, stumbling back slightly. The creature licked the air, its presence a testament to the dangers that lingered in the shadows of Camelot. Enough of this. The woman's voice cut through the air like steel. You have meddled with forces that do not concern you. You will either flee or face the consequences. The knight's resolve seemed to harden. We will not flee. If you'll allow me to speak, perhaps we can come to an understanding. The woman raised an eyebrow, amusement dancing in her eyes, but I sensed an anger brewing beneath her calm facade. I felt the knight's tension alongside my own attention that stretched across the narrow alley like a taut rope, but I could tell the knight was making a grave mistake even as he spoke. The shadows around us shivered with a life of their own, and dread knotted my stomach further. I squeezed the boy's hand tighter, a small act of defiance in a world that threatened to consume us. Your bravery sows the seeds of folly, she replied with a sneer, gesturing for the creature to come closer. It prowled toward us, letting out a low growl that resonated deep in my bones. You will soon learn, knight and girl, that Camelot is not a refuge for the weak. Suddenly, something shifted, a flicker of uncertainty crossed the knight's face as he readied his sword, but before he could draw it fully, the boy cried out, "No! Don't hurt them!" His small voice pierced the tension like a fragile ray of light breaking through storm clouds. In that moment, the creature halted, its golden eyes curiously fixing on the boy. The woman's amusement faded as she regarded the child with interest. "Why do you protect them?" she asked, her voice almost soothing, a deceptive tranquility woven in amidst the chaos around us. The boy looked up at the woman, unyielding, a tiny warrior in the face of shadows. "Because they saved me. And because everyone deserves a chance." The knight and I exchanged a glance, a tangle of emotions passing between hope, fear, disbelief, and the faintest spark of possibility. Perhaps this child had not just saved himself but opened a connection to something greater, something beyond this perilous moment. "Very well," the woman said slowly, her cool demeanor returning. "Perhaps I shall grant you that chance. Yet, no. The path in front of you is paved with burdens and darkness. You must make choices, and not all of them will be easy." With a sudden movement, she turned to retreat into the shadows, the creature slinking back alongside her, as if obeying some unseen command. My heart raced, half in relief and half in terror. "What does she mean?" I asked, barely aware I had spoken aloud. The knight sheathed his sword, his brow furrowed as he stared after the departing figures. "There are forces at work here that we do not understand. And if they believe you will play a part, I fear we have entered a game far more dangerous than we anticipated." "Breathe," I told myself, as the weight of our situation settled in, heavy in the pit of my stomach. The boy looked up at me with wide eyes, and I saw a mixture of gratitude and fragile hope. Perhaps, in his innocence and courage, there existed a path forward for us all. Yet, no sooner had I embraced that thought than the world around us darkened again. A low rumble echoed through the alley, and I sensed dread gather like an impending storm, crashing against the small flicker of hope. Then came a whisper, almost lost to the wind, but it carried a weight that sent icy fingers creeping down my spine. "The truth of your origin will come to light, and Camelot will not stand as you wish it to." As those words sunk in, I felt my chest tighten with confusion and fear. I was not merely an outsider, I had unwittingly become a part of something much larger than myself. And the gravity of that revelation hung in the air like the approach of an inevitable tempest, ready to engulf us all. The shadows lingered longer than they should have after the cloaked woman vanished, her words echoing in my mind like the chilling refrain of a haunting melody. I studied the boy, whose small frame trembled only slightly. His innocence was a fragile shield against the encroaching darkness, and I couldn't help but wish I could protect him from the weight of the world. "Are you okay?" I asked, kneeling to meet his gaze. I brushed a hand over his hair, as if that simple gesture could ease the turmoil swirling around us. That I am scared, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. What does she mean about Camelot? The knight shifted, taking a step closer. It means we're involved in a game far beyond our understanding. We've unwittingly drawn the attention of those who hold the fate of this realm in their hands. He turned his solemn gaze to the darkness that had enveloped the alley. And we must tread carefully, for this place is riddled with unseen dangers. The boy's hand slipped from mine, and he turned to the knight. Do you think they'll come back? The lady and the monster, I wish I could promise you they wouldn't, the knight said, his voice softening. But we must remain vigilant. We must. Suddenly, the sound of approaching footsteps interrupted his words. A figure emerged from the haze of twilight. I held my breath, fearing another confrontation. It was a young woman, her features marred with dirt but her blue eyes bright and steely. Relief surged through me as I noticed the sword hanging at her side, still sheathed. Who are you? The knight demanded, glaring at her with a mixture of caution and inherent protectiveness. I felt safe beside him, anchored in his presence. My name is Miriel, she replied, her tone defiant yet weary. I've been tracking the cloaked woman since she entered the town. I overheard her conversation with you, and you think you know her? I asked, a hint of hope flickering to life. More than you may realize, she said, her eyes darting around as if expecting the shadows to reveal their sinister depths at any moment. She's part of a dark sect that believes they can manipulate the very fabric of Camelot. They will do everything they can to control the fate of this land, and now they know about you. Us? I echoed, realizing the magnitude of her words. The chosen one, Miriel continued, fixing her gaze on me, is often destined for great upheaval. And in Camelot, those marked are hunted. But I'm just a girl, I interrupted, my voice wavering. I don't belong here. I didn't choose this, neither did many chosen before you, she said, a gentle compassion softening her fierce demeanor. But the truth is, your arrival may be the key to something far greater, your greatest downfall. A shiver coursed through me, as reality settled like a fog in my mind. What do you mean? Miriel sighed, her shoulders slumping slightly, a sigh heavy with the burdens of untold stories. There are forces at work, ancient and perverse. They thrive on despair and division. You have the potential to unite the factions of Camelot or plunge it deeper into chaos. This boy, too, he is not merely innocent. He is a Linka catalyst. You can't be serious, I breathed, looking from Miriel to the boy, who was watching our exchange with wide, encircling eyes. I am, she affirmed. But actions of kindness and courage will draw enemies. You'll need allies, and those will not come easy, especially with the shadows on your trail. The knight turned to me, determination rigid in his expression. We need to leave this alley now. We can't risk being found by anyone connected to that woman. Miriel nodded, stepping aside to reveal a narrow path that carved through the shadows. Follow me. I know a safe place, but time is of the essence. That we moved swiftly, the chill of dusk settling ominously around us. As we navigated winding streets, my heart raced, each step an echo of uncertainty. I stared at the back of the knight's armor, a beacon amidst the gloom. I was about to embark on a journey I had never wanted, and yet, it was becoming impossible to deny the strange sense of purpose stirring within me. Just when I thought the shadows couldn't press any closer, a sudden cry sliced through the air, sending a jolt of fear spiraling through my chest. Milo! A familiar voice reached out from the depth of the alleyway. It was a woman, a frantic desperation woven into every call. My heart dropped. Milo, the boy's name echoed in a realm where I'd finally begun to believe he could be safe. It's my mother. The boy shouted, breaking free of my side and darting toward the sound. No. I screamed, my hand reaching out to grab him, but it was too late. He rushed into the depths of the path, and the knight lunged after him, fierce and protective. Panic seized me as I ran behind, every heartbeat echoing the stark reality we were plunging into. The street began to grow darker, shadows unfurling like cobwebs. Milo. I called desperately, my voice barely a whisper against the mounting dread. As we reached the mouth of the alley, the world shifted, the air thickening with a sense of foreboding. Straining my eyes, I saw his mother at the far end, but her features warped amid the encroaching shadows. I could feel the fervor of a hidden malevolence that threatened to overshadow every ounce of bravery I had found. Milo. She cried, her arms reaching out, but even as she beckoned, I saw something looming behind her, a darker presence emerging from the void. No. I screamed again, grasping at the knight's arm as he turned to meet the danger, realizing the girl's words had come to fruition. Chaos wasn't a mere possibility, it had a name and a voice, one that now laughed in the face of the futures we had scarcely begun to understand. The urgency of the moment flickered with the uncertainty of truth. And as the shadows gathered, I knew that our greatest challenge had only just begun, unfolding like the pages of a forgotten tale. The shadows converged, swirling around Milo's mother like a predator stalking its prey. I felt the ground beneath me tremble as the darkness took form, the chilling laughter slicing through the air like a poisoned dagger. There was no more time for hesitation, we had to act quickly. Milo, back away. The knight commanded, his voice a low rumble of authority mixed with desperation. I could see the resolve in his eyes, the weight of his duty pressing him forward like an unyielding tide confronting a storm, but the boy was paralyzed, caught in the thrall of his mother's outstretched arms and the malevolence curling around her like smoke. My heart raced as I fought an overwhelming urge to rush forward, to pull him back despite the danger that lurked. Do something. I cried out, my fear morphing into fury. We can't just stand here, they will not respond to reason or compassion in their current state. Muriel spoke sharply, her voice cutting through the cacophony of chaos unfurling around us. Stay close, and trust me. The knight moved with an unparalleled grace, shielding me from the encroaching darkness. I wanted to believe that he could protect us, that we could save Milo, but the shadows whispered their baleful secrets, and I felt them creeping into my mind, worming their way through my resolve. Milo. I yelled again, desperation clawing at my throat as I witnessed him inching toward his mother. Their eyes locked, a bond forged in a world oblivious to the sinister forces at play. Muriel's sword was drawn now, shimmering with a pale light that briefly illuminated the chilling indifference of the shadows. We have to break it. Focus on Milo. Focus on what matters. Something deep within me stirred a connection to that vibrant innocence. He was not merely a boy, he was the beacon of hope we so desperately needed. If I could channel even a fraction of that light, perhaps we could pierce the darkness that sought to engulf him. Milo. I reached for him with everything I had, my heart pulsing in rhythm with the desperation in my voice. Come back to us. Trust me. His eyes widened, an echo of realization breaking through his fear. But the darkness was relentless, swirling around his mother, draping her in a shroud of despair that sought to pull him in. Mama, please. He begged, tears threatening to spill over. Don't look at her. I shouted, my own emotions flaring dangerously. Look at me. I'm right here. The shadows hesitated, for just a moment, as if caught in the pull of my determination. I stepped forward, my resolve hardening against the churning malevolence. You can break free, Milo. Your love for her is stronger than this darkness. In that instant, the laughter faded, and a cycle of flickering light appeared around us, a fleeting barrier born of hope and resilience. I didn't know where it had come from, but it surged through me, unyielding. Then, from the edges of the alley, I saw a glimmer of movement. Emerging from the shadows was a figure cloaked in a silver robe, its face obscured but the aura radiant. I felt an unexpected warmth seep into the chilled air. Enough! The figure shouted, their voice ringing with authority. Stand down, spirits of despair. You have no power here. With the command, the darkness hesitated. Milo glanced back at me, his resolve strengthening, the flicker of hope igniting once more within his chest. I am coming. He shouted, pulling away from the encroaching void. Milo, no. His mother gasped, panic lacing her voice. But just as he took a step back, the shadows twisted violently, reaching toward him like blackened tendrils of fate determined to grasp him. the knight surged forward, sword raised, shining in the dimness like a beacon guiding us through the night. Miriel moved in tandem with him, her presence fierce and unwavering. "Now!" she cried, readying her weapon, and then, the figure in silver stepped forward, raising an arm and issuing a blinding burst of light that pushed back the shadows, creating a safe haven for Milo. It was a force unlike anything I had ever witnessed, illuminating the night with a bounty of hope. The darkness shrieked, fading back under the sheer power of the light. "Milo, come!" I extended my arms, never wavering as he now darted toward me, his little legs carrying him past the weight of the despair that had sought to tether him, but the shadows were not finished. As Milo crossed the threshold, a visceral howl erupted from the darkness, a promise of vengeance offered on an unholy wind. "Step back. It's a ruse," the figure in silver warned, voice breaking through the turmoil. An ominous sense of finality wrapped around our hearts as we turned to see the shadows coalescing into a creature of sinister proportions, a grotesque manifestation of anger and anguish, filling the alley with a palpable dread. "No!" I cried, knowing too well that we had not yet escaped their grasp. A sickening dread bloomed in my stomach as the creature locked its hollow gaze onto us, an unfathomable abyss filling those soulless eyes. "Milo, get behind me!" I yelled, pulling him close as the knight widened his stance, preparing for the onslaught. But it was then that a wave of insight crashed over me, a jarring revelation illuminated by the creature's piercing gaze. Beneath its malevolence lurked a familiar pulsea connection that seemed all too personal. "Wait!" I gasped, realization unleashing a tidal wave of confusion and dread. The shadows could not merely be evil, they held fragments of stories, of lost souls yearning to be understood. My empathy clawed at me, threatening to unravel the emotional fabric I had so carefully woven. What if this was not just a battle against an adversary, but rather an encounter with the very essence of Camelot's sorrow? As the creature lunged forward, my heart thundered against the oncoming storm of darkness, and I understood, irrevocably, that my choice would define the fate of not just our lives, but the realm itself. The darkness loomed ahead, a tangible entity thrumming with an energy that felt almost sentient. Each pulse seemed to resonate with the pain and anguish of those it had consumed. I backed away, heart pounding, my mind racing as the realization settled over me like a cold mist. This beast was born not simply of malevolence, but of tragedy, of lost hopes and fractured dreams. "Milo, stay close," I whispered urgently, my grip tightening around his tiny shoulders. His wide eyes searched mine, vibrant and trusting, even as the shadows writhed ominously around us. The knight and Miriel stood defiantly before us, fearlessly shielding the both of us from the approaching creature. The shimmering light from Miriel's sword flickered, dimming under the weight of despair that threatened to swallow us whole. "Do not let fear take root," the figure in silver commanded, stepping forward with an air of unwavering confidence. "We can combat this, but you must understand, it is not just brute force which will bring victory, but the strength of your hearts." "Your hearts," the words echoed in my mind, leaving me haunted. But how could I hope to reach something that had become so twisted by pain? As the creature let out a low growl, like a storm building strength, I took a deep breath. "What do we do?" I pressed to the knight, who was still poised, sword raised, determination carved deep into his features. "Focus on what you wish to protect," he replied, his expression unyielding. "Remember the joy, the love, let it be your strength." Milo, watching intently, suddenly stemmed his fears as he grasped my hand tighter. "We can fight it together, right?" His voice was a whisper of innocence against the chaos, grounding me in a reality I desperately wanted to believe was still possible. "Yes, together," I affirmed, though uncertainty gnawed at my confidence. I turned my attention back to the creature, heart racing as I prepared myself to confront the darkness. "We can find a way to reach you," I called into the depths of despair, my words barely breaking through the din surrounding us. To my surprise, the creature paused, its ghastly form momentarily faltering as if my words had struck a chord deep within. A shimmer of something passed across its grotesque features, revealing what seemed to be a flicker of humanity. "Don't give in," The silver-cloaked figure shouted as the shadows swirled violently again, threatening to coalesce around us. Your resolve is the key. Do not waver. And then a memory came rushing forth like a tide against the shore. I could see flashes of joyful laughter and shared smiles, echoes of childhood moments drenched in warmth and safety. A vision of my own mother, who had always encouraged me to shine brightly in the face of darkness. Those memories, they matter. I cried, fueled by the longing for connection. When love is remembered, darkness shrinks, Milo, I said, my voice trembling with raw emotion. Think of the happiest moment you can remember. His eyes softened, and a smile flickered. The day we went to the fair. He exclaimed, excitement creeping into his tone, dispelling the shadows of despair clawing at his innocence. Yes. Picture it. I urged. Let's push back against this together, and as he concentrated, I did too, feeling the warmth surge within me, a collective strength blossoming through our fears. Muriel raised her sword higher, its brilliance reflecting the light that emanated from our hearts. It seemed to tether us, bound by the hope that refused to be snuffed out. The creature paused again, its form shifting erratically as something deep within it wrestled against the confluence of light and memory. I could see glimpses of lost souls swirling around its figure, trapped like petals caught in a tempest. Each one of them told a story, an ancient sorrow infused with desperation. Can we help them? I murmured to the figure in silver, pleading with my gaze to grasp at any semblance of clarity amidst the shadows. You must find the source of their pain, came the somber response. Only then can they be freed. Suddenly, the shadows lunged forward as a horrific roar erupted from the creature, sending a shockwave through the alley that rattled the very stones beneath our feet. It surged toward us, a formidable wave threatening to consume everything in its path. In an instant, the night charged forward, drawing the creature's anger away from us. This is our moment. Focus, everyone. But as the shadows twisted around me again, I realized I had made a crucial mistake. In my desire to confront the darkness, I had failed to notice the fateful connection it bore, the familiar pulse resonating deeper than I had dared to understand. Milo. I shouted, but it was too late. Just as I took a step forward, a dark tendril snatched him, pulling him away from me and wrapping around his frame like a serpent of despair. No. Let him go. The words tore from my throat, desperation clawing at my insides as I charged toward him. The boy's terrified eyes reflected the depth of my own horror, the realization that something far more sinister lingered in the depths of the abyss watching us intently. The figure in silver called out, its voice drowned by a newer catastrophe, you must confront the truth hidden within. Only the heart's memory can protect him now. And as the shadows closed in, my own memories began to swirl, recounting everything I had ever lost. A newfound resolve punctuated my thoughts, but would it be enough when facing a darkness that seemed to feed off despair? Stay strong, Milo. I yelled, my voice faltering as I witnessed the void climb higher around him. In that critical moment, with the shadows constricting and the creature lunging with a roar, a shattering realization dawned upon me. The fate of not just my world but the realm itself now rested precariously within the most fragile hearts, our intertwined destinies illuminated by the light of lost love seeking to break free. The world around me spun into a kaleidoscope of fear and urgency as I lunged forward, the shadows coiling tighter around Milo. The darkness pulsed and writhed, echoing the despair resonating from the creature like a dirge, a haunting melody that threatened to consume every ounce of hope I clung to. Milo. I cried again, frantic energy propelling my feet forward even as the night and Muriel engaged with the creature, dimming the brilliance of their light against the encroaching tempest. I could see the pain in Milo's eyes now, was trapped in a prison of shadows, unable to break free. I could feel my heart splintering with each second that ticked away, knowing that even if I reached him, I had no armament against this darkness. Yet, amidst the blackness, something began to shimmer, an echo of light hidden deep within the maelstrom, beckoning me closer. Could it be hope? Or perhaps a glimmer of the love that had once defined our existence, now flickering in defiance against despair? Stay with me, Milo. Focus on our memories together. Remember the fair, remember your laughter. I called out, pouring every ounce of my being into my words, desperate to anchor him amidst the chaos. With my heart pounding, I envisioned that day, the bright sun overhead, the swirling colors of the stalls, the joy written across Milo's face as he chomped down on cotton candy, and then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, something shifted. I could see the tendrils of shadow quake, the dark layers peeling back as my memories brushed against their cold embrace. A flash of warmth intertwined with Milo's small frame, illuminating him like a candle fighting against the storm. "Milo, I believe in you," I shouted, though my entire being felt on the brink of collapse. And as I held on to the hope tethered by my memories, something extraordinary happened. Milo clenched his small fists and his face lit up, reflecting the joyous moments we had shared, unleashing thoughts that I had almost forgotten in the wake of despair. "That I am not afraid. I remember," he shouted back, determination burning bright within him. "I remember when we danced under the stars, exactly," I exclaimed. "That joy, that love, let it carry us through." But as the shadows convulsed and lashed out in fury, I also saw the figure in silver beginning to falter, the knight's formidable stance weakening against the surge aimed toward us. I grasped onto Milo's gaze, urging strength into my voice, channeling every ounce of my essence towards him, towards us. "Fight it back. Imagine us there." Just like that, then suddenly, a crack forged between the shadows. A mere fracture at first, it widened into a gaping fissure that seemed to shimmer with potent energy. It was as if the memories we conjured were physically shattering the shadow's hold. Encouraged, Milo surged forward, courage seeping into his very marrow. Around us, Muriel raised her sword higher, its glow amplifying as if feeding off the resurgence of strength born from within. But before the breath of hope could fully flourish, a guttural roar echoed around us. The creature reared back, its grotesque visage transforming into something far more sinister, an amalgamation of tormented souls whose cries rang through the tempest. Within that mass of sorrow lurked shadows that whispered warning straight to my heart, that he feeds on your fear. The knight bellowed, his voice strained as he regained ground. "You must confront it directly, face the truth," Muriel urged, her sword radiant despite the swirling shadows, her unwavering stance echoing the depths of her own fortitude. Fear contrasted sharply with the warmth blossoming in my chest even as I remembered the moments of joy, their glimmers giving life to my courage. But alongside this, right underneath the chill of my blood, doubt began to bubble again, and I could feel it gnawing at the certainty that bound me to that flickering hope. What was the truth I was meant to uncover? A revelation that might free Milo? A haunting fear that gripped my heart nearly choked me as I stood at the precipice of uncertainty. Could I truly confront the darkness within not just the creature, but within myself? As I wrestled with the surge of memories, another wave of darkness exploded from the creature, momentarily enveloping us in a foreboding embrace. All around, the tension sharpened, and mere moments felt like lifetimes. The knight was struggling, stumbling against the weight of despair threatening to bury him, just as shadows threatened to steal Milo away completely. No. I screamed, rushing closer as I felt the weight of despair seep into my bones. And then, as if in slow motion, I bore witness to the devastating moment of Milo's tenacity wavering as he gazed into those dark depths. A single shred of hope began to fray, a long-lost connection beckoning me to step beyond my fears. It was then I noticed it in the eyes of the creature. In those stormy depths swirled images of someone I once knew. Slivers of memories reflecting back fragments of a life intertwined with my own. And with that realization, a new urgency unfolded within me. Could this beast before us be tied to me in a way I had not conceived? As the shadows coiled tighter, I turned to the knight and Muriel, feeling an ember ignite in my chest. "I think this darkness, it knows me. It remembers me." And just as I spoke, a profound rumble shuddered through the ground, sending cracks spidering outward around us. Time slowed as I struggled to accept this revelation, heart racing as another scream reverberated, this time amidst the shadows. A scream I recognized as that of my own lost hope, echoing from the depths of despair. In that moment, the horizon between light and shadow blurred, teetering on a brink of unimaginable peril. Resplendent memories clashed with haunting truths. But the true power remained untouched, lying dormant within the very scars I had carried, binding me to the creature in a way that would challenge everything I had ever known. The journey was far from over. I stood on the precipice of my truth, and in the depths of the abyss, where hope and fear danced intertwined, a shocking revelation unfurled its wings just as shadows lunged forth, threatening to consume us all. The weight of the shadows enveloped me as I tried to make sense of what I had just realized. A connection to the creature, a tie forged from fragments of a life consumed by darkness, echoed in my mind like a distant chime reverberating through a hollow hall. The cries of tormented souls flared hot around us, their wails a haunting reminder of the pain I had sought to escape. Milo. I gasped, clenching my fists as my heart raced. I couldn't let him fall into despair, not when I was beginning to comprehend the shape of this terror, not when we could stand together against it. We can't give up. We have to face it together. The light from Muriel's sword flickered, struggling against the encroaching shadows, and I could see the determination in the knight's expression even as it morphed into swirling agony. He stepped forward, drawing courage from our resolve, but doubt still had its grip on my heart. What if I couldn't face the truth lurking in the creature's depths? What if it swallowed me whole? Milo, remember the stories I told you. The ones about knights overcoming great trials and never backing down, even when it seems the world is against them. I pushed through the knot in my throat, searching for anything to bolster our fight. We are brave like them. Milo met my gaze, fear flickering in his wide eyes, yet beneath that shone a resilience I cherished. I'm scared, he admitted, his small voice barely breaking the heavy air. A pang of empathy pierced through me, realized that beneath our struggle, we were just two people searching for the light together, and yet the shadows held us in a cruel embrace. That I know, sweet boy, I said softly, kneeling before him, holding his small hands within my own, grounding him against the swirling chaos. But fear is just a darkness that we can push away. Remember the love we share? The laughter, the tears? That power outweighs any shadow. As I spoke, I began to weave the tapestry of our memories, threading the moments of warmth into a shield against the encroaching darkness. I envisioned us on the hill overlooking the sunset, laughing as the sun dipped below the horizon like a fiery promise of a new day. We've faced so many storms together, and every time, we emerged stronger, I said, feeling the warmth of those moments fusing my resolve. You are not alone. Together, we can turn the tide. That's right, Milo. Muriel shouted from behind us, her voice a beacon cutting through the veil of desolation. Light only flickers momentarily, but it can never be extinguished by darkness unless we let it. Emboldened by her words, I felt the shadows shift slightly, inching back beneath the rising tide of our collective hope. This was our moment to confront the creature both internally and externally. I needed to confront not only him but myself, the fears rooted in my past that had bled into this present moment. With newfound determination, I turned toward the creature, heart pounding as I addressed it directly, voice steady despite the storm swirling around us. I know you're tied to me. I see the pain reflected in you. You are born of my own fears and regrets. You know my name, you know my failures. But I refuse to be a prisoner of my past. I choose hope. I choose to fight. The creature recoiled, releasing a deafening roar, but my plea pierced through its darkness like a shard of sunlight breaking through an overcast sky. The eyes that met mine held an uncanny recognition, a myriad of emotions flickering across its surface: loss, heartache, and an echo of my own doubt. That I in this moment, a surge of clarity washed over me. Truth was no longer a fragmented shadow lurking in the corner of my mind. It was the pain I had buried, a longing for the connection I once cherished. Misplaced expectations and unhealed traumas had brewed a tempest of emotions. The time had come to confront them, to hold them in the light of acknowledgement. No more. I declared, voice rising defiantly against the storm. You do not define me. My past does not determine my future. I am more than my fears. With each word, a flicker of light ignited within me, allowing the warmth of our shared memories to swell into a bright crescendo, a force ready to push the darkness aside. Suddenly, a blaze erupted from the fissure we had opened, each memory pulsing with life, forging an unexpected connection across the divide of despair. And then, through the haze, I caught a glimpse of a figure within the creature, someone I had thought lost to me forever. The visage of a familiar face emerged, eyes filled with anguish yet illuminated by the fading light. Lena? A flood of recognition crashed over Mimi mother, the one I had long grieved and thought abandoned to the fangs of time. My heart raced, shimmering fragments of love intertwined with the shadows surrounding Mino, not her. The pain of loss had birthed this monster, a distortion of the love she had offered. In that moment, I realized I must extend my hand, not just toward Milo but toward the creature. The realization inspired a strange sense of solace, a quiet understanding that even in darkness, threads of love remained. Mom! I embrace you. I forgive you for the words unsaid, for the moments unlived. You are a part of me. The shadows twisted in furious denial, thrashing against the waves of light blooming from within. Yet, as I reached out toward the creature, uncertainty gripped my heart. Could I truly reconcile this darkness with the love I had lost? Was I ready to face those memories? Don't let the fear overtake you. Muriel shouted, slicing through the darkness with her sword, while the knight surged forward, rallying the remnants of his waning strength. But as the shadows recoiled, a violent crack erupted through the ground, sending waves of energy spiraling outwards. Time froze around me as I clung to my revelation, the warmth flooding me like a bomb against the fear constricting my heart, and in that heart-stopping moment, as fragments of my past slipped through my fingers, I felt another shift in the shadows, a nameless dread sinking its claws deep into my chest. The sorrow began to unravel before me, and as I considered the flickering hope, a shocking truth unveiled itself: the presence of betrayal from another source, a revelation buried deep within the shadows that had somehow birthed this creature, and now threatened to unravel everything I held dear. Before I could comprehend the implications, darkness surged again, a tide so ferocious it threatened to drown my voice, leaving me gasping as I stared into the abyss. Reality twisted in on itself, memories shattering like fragile glass, revealing a truth more terrifying than the shadows. I was not the only one entangled in this darkness. There was someone else hidden within it, someone from my past whose intent had finally come to light, and as the shadows erupted in a chaotic frenzy, I realized I was not alone in this fight. But who could it be? My heart thudded painfully against my ribcage as I braced for the impact of that revelation. The darkness pulsed like a living entity, sweeping away fragments of joy and love I had desperately tried to hold on to. I had one hand extended towards the creature, toward my mother's forlorn visage, and the other clenched around Milo's small fingers, as if the connection we shared would be enough to anchor me to the light amid this tempest. Promise me you'll stay by my side, I whispered to Milo, feeling the tremor in his grip. He nodded fervently, although his eyes shimmered with anxiety, feeling the rising tide of shadows all around us. I took a breath, steeling myself as the disembodied figure of my mother writhed within the creature, eternally bound by a darkness I had never truly understood. Who are you? I prayed to the shadows, desperate to uncover what intricacies entwined my past with the grotesque creature. I needed to confront this unknown force with fierce honesty, yet it sat thick in the air, stifling my words. Show yourself. The shadows twisted, revealing swirling chaos. Within it, I glimpsed fleeting memories, not mine but those of Anathra, a flicker of a familiar face I could barely recognize. Each shift in the shadows threatened to pull me under, but as fragments coalesced, each one felt like a knife stabbing into the core of my being, amplifying the dread surging through me. It can't be. Milo's innocent voice broke through my thoughts as he squeezed my hand tighter, searching my gaze for assurance. I realized he sensed the weight of this revelation too. Who is it? He asked, his small voice barely above a whisper, but I was too lost in the vortex of tumultuous memories, images of laughter, disappointment, and an aching sense of betrayal clawing at me with every flash. It's I stammered, finding it hard to breathe. It's someone I thought I had lost. Suddenly, a rush of wind swept through the area, like breath exhaled upon a dying flame, forcing my eyes to widen in horror. I am sorry, dear sister, the voice echoed from the creature, distorting our surroundings. But your burdens must be faced. The darkness parted as a figure emerged, silhouetted against the flickering light of Muriel's sword, and with every step, my heart pounded louder. The memories twisted in defiance, trying to push the figure back into obscurity. But there she was, my long-lost sister, a specter from the past whose absence had left a void too deep to fill, Julienne. I gasped, spilling the name, my voice breaking under the weight of grief and anger. Time stopped as memories surged forth, the laughter we'd shared as children, the bond we forged, the competition, then came betrayal, leading to a chasm we could never bridge. Why? I lamented, the shadows curling into my words, laced with disbelief. Why did you leave? Why did you let darkness consume you? Because I had to, Lena. You didn't understand the depths of our mother's pain, she said, her voice as twisted as the shadows enveloping her. I thought I was saving you from a world that would tear us apart, but instead, it has come to this. Through my shock, I instinctively pulled Milo closer, shielding him from the specter of our shared history. You chose fear over love. Don't you see how that fear has manifested? How it has turned our lives into unrest? I could feel Milo's heart racing in sync with mine, a silent understanding blossoming between us. The shadows pulsated with my emotions, yearning for resolution, for a bridge to be built over the chasm of betrayal. Julienne's gaze softened, a transient flicker of the bond we once shared illuminating her face, even as its shadow weighed heavy around us. I thought I was protecting you, but I only fed the darkness, she sighed, regret threading through her words. I never meant to be a monster. Muriel raised her sword higher, threatening to cut through Julienne's darkness. Lena, you must decide. Will you accept the frailty of your sister? Can you find forgiveness within the abyss? Tension seized my heart as the question echoed louder than any roar of the creature. Moments of our lives flashed before me once again, the playful afternoons, the shared dreams interlaced with heartaches and faded trust. Was love worth risking it all again, even as her shadow still loomed? Please, I tried, my voice barely faltering through the roiling emotions. You have a choice. We can face this together if you'll only embrace the light. Just then, another wave erupted from the shadows, pushing me backward, and I felt Milo stumble beside me. I did my best not to lose him again, clasping his hand tighter, resolute in not letting despair consume us. The weight of betrayal and shared history folded around us, a fabric woven from love and darkness, yet the tiniest thread of hope shimmered within it, pulsed with promise, of connection, fragility, and new beginnings. Make your choice, Lena, Julienne urged, pain etched across her features, laced with fear of unending darkness or the warmth of the shared bond. Yet just as her plea settled into my heart, another truth unfolded, a distant warmth sparked through the depths of shadows surrounding us. And then I felt it, the stirrings of something or someone awakening from within the chaotic mass. As the shadows shifted violently once more, a realization struck through me like cold steel. There was a heartbeat in the darkness, another presence waiting for its release, something connected to both of us, tied intricately to this moment of reckoning. Someone who bore the weight of our legacy, who could tip the scale of our destinies. As I caught sight of another yet familiar figure emerging, a visage lost time ago but still heavy in my heart, the final threads pulled tight, leaving me vulnerable and gasping at this fortuitous encounter. Tragedy, betrayal, and hope all hung in the balance. Even as the shadows roared around us. Lena, the voice echoed, drawing my attention away from the cause of my anguish and towards a new reality, an unforeseen truth demanding to shatter everything I thought I knew. And as the figure stepped forward, I braced for its unveiling, heart pounding, unsure whether it would bring salvation or doom, but whatever it was destined to change everything. In the depths of chaos, as shadows coiled around us like a tempest, I found myself eclipsed by a profound sense of inevitability. The creature, a grotesque amalgamation of despair, surged forward, yet I felt a tethera connection to something greater, a flicker of light within the overwhelming darkness that threatened to consume us. Milo! I cried again, my voice trembling but resolute. He was still beside me, searching my eyes, and even as fear gripped him, I could see the embers of courage igniting within him. I tightened my grip on his hand, determined to shield him from the wreckage of shadows swirling around us. Remember, I said urgently, trying to ground us in the essence of our shared history. Love is our shield against this. I couldn't help but see Julienne waiting in the shadows, her sorrowful expression reflecting a tangle of memories, and I felt a deep well of empathy swell within me. Perhaps this was the moment we could each reclaim our hearts from darkness, not only for ourselves but for each other as well. With every ounce of adaptability I could muster, I faced the creature that bore my sister's essence. Julien, I'm here. I may not understand your journey, but I recognize our shared pain. Together, we can find a way to illuminate even the harshest corners of our past. The tension in the air thickened, as if the darkness itself were holding its breath, but I wouldn't let fear dictate our narrative anymore. The apparition of Julien trembled, caught between the intense shadows of despair and the small yet unyielding light of hope that flickered close by. I can help you, if only you would let me in. I continued, pleading with her, too. Lena, you don't know what you're saying, she managed, her expression painting a tumultuous struggle. The darkness holds me captive in a way you can't imagine. I wanted nothing but to protect you, but the more I tried, the deeper I fell. I'm not afraid of the truth anymore. We were sisters, bound together by our love and our memories. I pressed, the noise of despair buzzing like angry bees around me. With every moment, I sensed the connections wrapping tighter, intertwining our fates. All we need is to embrace our past and let the burdens of fear and regret slip away. We can make it through. As if to underscore my words, a violent roar erupted from the creature, reeling back as if recoiling from the warmth I wielded. I felt energy shift. We were not mere pawns in this game anymore. All of us, Milo, Julien, the knight, and Muriel, were united not only in our desire to protect one another, but also in our shared history, our hopes, and unspent laughter. At that moment, Milo turned to me, his small frame glowing with burgeoning courage. I remember the stories, he exclaimed, clutching my hand tighter. We need to fight for what we love, don't we? With those words, the shadows hesitated, their predatory gaze flickering as if wrestling with an unseen force. I stepped forward, drawing strength from every heartfelt moment I took for granted, every spark of love that defined the very essence of what we all shared. Yes, Milo. Let's remember the joy. In response, Muriel raised her sword high, its light amplifying under our collective resolve, illuminating the depths of our heart's intentions. This is the moment. We embrace our truth, our love no longer shackled by fear. As the creature writhed in agony, I pictured every cherished memory, the laughter, the dreams, the love that wove our stories together. I summoned every moment that breathed life into us and coursed through our veins. I envisioned Julien as she had been, young, bright, and filled with dreams of adventure. Let go of the pain. We can rebuild. I shouted, my voice a drumbeat in the twinkling darkness. We choose to stand on the foundation of our love. You can break free. With each shouted declaration, the shadows around us erupted, a cacophony of swirling darkness dissipating under the piercing brilliance of our shared warmth. And then, a radiant glow erupted from the core of the creature, cascading through the gloom, revealing intertwined threads of our history, of all the lost souls vying for redemption. And as the light surged, an apparition surged for the delicate visage shimmering through the fading shadows, my mother, standing radiant, bathed in the warmth of remembrance and forgiveness. Lena, she said softly, my love never faltered, I only chose the wrong path. But the truth is that love can overcome even the darkest despair. Tears brimmed in my eyes, the pain of loss coalescing into something beautiful. Mom! I called, the world around us becoming an echo of joy and sorrow, kaleidoscopic in its brilliance. We are here. Together. In that moment, a bridge formed, a narrow path of light, igniting the shadows that threatened to engulf us. With the arms of my mother wrapped around us, I could feel warm threads weaving through my heart, threads of forgiveness, grief, and understanding that would carry us forward. The shadows shrieked, retreating as the apparition of my sister joined the light, her face softening in recognition of what had once been lost. Lena, forgive me. Let's find redemption together, she begged. I do, I whispered, reaching out into the light as I felt my heart expand beyond the tether of pain and betrayal. We will find our way home. Then, with a surge of collective energy, the shadows exploded around us, with whatever darkness left flickering as if unwilling to hold on to the light that surged forth. With that blaze of brilliance, we stood united at the precipice of our choices. The last remnants of despair melted away into the restless void, the ground trembled for a moment before it ceased, returning to a semblance of calm as shadows broke apart, revealing a dawning horizon of hope. It felt as though we had been reborn through fire, scars deepening the connection while love radiated in the air, all of us changed yet tethered to the essence of who we truly were. With tears glistening in her eyes, my mother's apparition smiled. "You are stronger than ever before, let that guide your path." As her presence faded into the dawn, my heart shook with an overwhelming sense of belonging and closure. "We will carry you with us," I vowed, glancing at Milo, the knight, and Muriel, whose faces bore the marks of their own stories intertwined with mine. Nothing would ever remain the same, yet the darkness had released its grip. We were free to forge a new path forward, rooted in love and resilience. "Together, we'll rebuild," I spoke softly, looking at my small band of companions, infused with the knowledge that the bonds we formed could never be extinguished. And as we stepped forward into the dawn of a new day, the essence of Camelot flowed around us, light weaving through the shadows, a promise of unity that would shimmer through even the darkest nights. "Together, we've made it through," I murmured, my heart swelling with a sense of purpose and hope. "And whatever comes next, we'll face it as one." In that moment, I finally understood, love can mend the fiercest of shadows, unshackle the heaviest of burdens, and anchor us towards the light. And with those thought-wrought threads encircling my heart, I knew, forged in fire and light, our stories would live on, illuminating all that lay ahead. As we marched forward, hand in hand, I realized the truth had never been lost, it had only just begun.